of engaging local volunteers. So over to you, Gabrielle.
Okay. So hello everyone, welcome and happy Volunteers Week to everyone. Thank you all for joining us and for your interest in this topic. As David has said, I am the volunteer coordinator at Glasgow Women's Library and a member of the Volunteer Organisers Network. Can everyone see and hear me okay? Yes, good. So I'm going to talk about GWL's approach to recruiting volunteers from our local area. But as I was preparing for this presentation, I realised that I couldn't really talk about volunteer recruitment without talking about our broader organisation-wide commitment to engaging local people. So I'll be touching upon how and why these two things are so interconnected. I thought I'd start with a bit of information about GWL for anyone who doesn't know us. Our name is a bit of a misnomer. Although we are based in Glasgow, in this building that you can see in the slide in the east end of the city, we actually work with groups across the city and throughout Scotland through outreach projects. And we're visited by local people as well as by visitors from across Glasgow, Scotland, the UK, and indeed the world. And although our collections do focus on women's lives and achievements, we are open to all, not just women. However, some projects, including the volunteering programme, actually are for women only, which are inclusive of trans women and non-binary people. And although we're a lending library, we're also an archive and museum. We provide a wide range of learning opportunities from literacy learning to exhibitions. We've just opened an exhibition for Glasgow International, which is hugely exciting. And other events and talks which are all online at the moment. We moved to Bridgeton in 2013. Having been in temporary premises in the city centre and in Garnet Hill in the West End. And we're really attracted to the area because of its rich history and proud community. Unlike the city centre, it felt like we were really moving into a community rather than being surrounded by offices. We also hoped to play a role in addressing some of the challenges in the area, which has suffered from a complete lack of investment for decades. It's one of the most deprived neighbourhoods in Scotland, with high unemployment, poverty, poor housing, and poor health. And there are also lower levels of literacy, and many of the new Scots, including asylum seekers and refugees who live in the area, have English as a second language. But there has been significant efforts to change this in recent years, and we were supported in our move and in the refurbishment of the building by Clyde Gateway, who are responsible for the ongoing regeneration of Bridgeton, Carlton, and Dalmarnock. I must say that from the get-go, we were completely overwhelmed by the support of local people, and any concerns that we had about not being accepted were really quickly alleviated. However, we knew that we still had to overcome many misconceptions about what we do and who we're for. Obviously, the concept of a women's library is unfamiliar to most people, and women's empowerment is still regarded as threatening by some people, and there are many assumptions about feminists and feminism, as well as who museums, libraries, and cultural organisations are for. So hopefully that's provided a bit of context, and I'll now move on to talk about our approach to recruiting local volunteers. As I said, this is part of a wider commitment to engaging local people and making local people part of the organisation. I wanted to share this diagram, which shows how different aspects of an organisation are interconnected and feed into each other, and really emphasise that none of these areas can be treated in isolation. For any group demographic to feel included in organisation, I believe they need to see themselves represented across the organisation. So to recruit more local volunteers, we had to also consider how they would be represented in our programme, in our collections, in the wider team, and of course in our audiences. And conversely, we knew that having more local volunteers on board and recruiting more local volunteers would be key to engaging with more local audiences and to their voices and lives being more reflected in our programme, in our collections. I'm focusing on an area which I took the lead on specifically as volunteer coordinator, and that was building relationships with partner organisations, specifically with the view of recruiting volunteers. I believe this has been really essential to us involving more local women as volunteers, and I really recommend, if you're not doing so already, finding a couple of allies in local organisations, getting to know them, finding out how you can support them, promoting and supporting what they do, and building relationship of mutual support. I think I used to focus on asking organisations to promote what we do without fully understanding how it linked with their work. But having an open discussion about how to tailor our volunteer roles to suit their service users has led to several volunteers coming on board, and it's been a really successful approach. So for example, I linked in with a local housing association who were running employability courses delivered by the wonderful Margaret Ann, who's pictured in the left. And from the start, she was so enthusiastic about GWL's work. She really got it, and she really saw the potential of it for the women she was supporting. She was looking for short-term work placements. So I adapted some of our volunteer roles into 4 to 6 week placements, and she then encouraged women to come on placement with us. While not all of those who started the placement stayed on as volunteers, some did, and then they became champions of GWL within their community and their networks. So it has that real ripple effect. And in fact, one of those volunteers has gone on to work with us, bringing her knowledge and contacts with the community right into the heart of the organisation and to her work as well. And we actually now have 4 colleagues out of 22 staff who live within a mile of the library. And I feel that's really important to our credibility in the local area as well. I'll now move on to talk a bit about how we approached engaging local audiences from a programming and curating point of view. It's probably obvious to say that volunteers and audiences need to be able to relate to something within an organisation in order to want to take part or to be involved. So we've tried to ensure that we programme events and exhibitions which showcase local women's history and lives. So for example, we developed a local women's heritage tour in the area, which was researched and delivered by volunteers. We hosted an exhibition of artwork by a local group, and we held a series of workshops exploring the history of a local hospital called the Belvedere, and the lives of women who worked there and were patients there as well. These projects are open to all, but the intention is to attract local audiences who might then go on to volunteer, but also to provide projects for local volunteers to get involved in. Not that local volunteers can't get involved in other projects, but these can provide a really great way in. Finally, I want to talk about visibility. We're aware that most of our work goes on inside the building. So both our work, our collections, and us, the team, are not visible to people unless they come inside and they visit us. So we feel that we need to be out there to show that we're part of the community, that we are welcoming, and to meet people where they are and not rely solely on them coming to us. So there's a few examples of how we've done that. One is we have a list of about 30 shops and community spaces where we put up posters before the launch of our of our new programs. We have 3 programs a year, and we have tried to build a relationship with the businesses and organizations where we put these up. So not just like sticking a poster up and going and leaving, but having that conversation about what we do and who we are. And these include the local GP, the Citizen Advice Bureau, the hairdressers, the chippy, a real range of businesses. Also coinciding with the launch of our programs, we host a stall at the Bridgeton Cross, which you saw a photograph of earlier on in the presentation. There's a market there every Tuesday, so we contacted the council and asked them if we could have a little pop-up stall, and it gives us a chance to talk to people and again be visible, hand out information, give away books, and invite people to come and visit us. We've also partnered with a local primary school to plant a small garden outside the building. That's the class on the left, with some funding and support from the Royal Horticultural Society. And after that was planted up, we have fairly frequent kind of maintenance gardening sessions, and each time we're outside gardening, people stop to talk. It's such a great icebreaker, and also it's a way of illustrating that we care about the area and that we're making it more beautiful, not just for us but for our neighbours. We've also tried to attend other community events in the area, things like Remembrance Sunday or community meals that have been organised by the local church, and again be seen. And we've hosted pop-up events, so sessions that we would usually hold in the library, we've held at a local community venue nearby to give a taste of what happens in our building. All of these activities lead to more people finding out about us, and although it might only be like 1 or 2, for each event that we host, I think that's always definitely worth it, because they then will go away and tell other people. So to sum up, I don't think any one of the actions I've spoken about is the most important. I think it's the combination of different approaches, which with time and commitment has led to more local people getting involved and volunteering. And I've got to say, we're still working on it. So there are lots of people from our neighbourhood who've never visited us in the 7 years that we've been here. In some ways, that's fine. We can't be everything for everyone, but we do want to make sure that if someone is curious about what we do, that there are plenty of ways for them to engage with us, and that we're not just assuming that just because we're open and it says all welcome on the board outside the building, that people are going to be confident coming to us. We really see it as our responsibility to be proactive. I hope some of these examples have been useful and maybe can be adapted to different settings. I've listed here some kind of more general tips. Number 1, building mutual relationships and finding allies, even if it's just 1 or 2 people, and nurturing that relationship over time. Being visible and meeting people where they are. I think it is really important to be seen. If possible, approaching this as a whole organisation and having this holistic approach to involving or to diversifying who we work with, by involving colleagues from different departments, to programming, collections, comms, and setting out as a team a plan for the year or for longer. We have a 3-year Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Action Plan, which has achievable goals. So, for example, reach out to 1 partner in a year, or hosting an open day 3 times a year, or having 1 exhibition co-curated with local people. Kind of small incremental steps that feel achievable. And I think remembering that this is a marathon, not a sprint. Building relationships and trust really does take time, and we've been here 7 years, and I still think it's a work in progress. Thank you all for listening. I hope that was helpful, and we've now got time for questions, so I really look forward to hearing any comments or questions that you might have. Thank you.
Gabrielle, thank you very much indeed.